We live at a very exciting time, a pivotal moment in history that many of us can sense, but perhaps not all of us can put our finger on. I have spent my entire life trying to figure out how we arrived at the world that we presently inhabit, and I have quite a few thoughts that have been accumulating on our present situation, where we've come from, and where we might go in the future. This has, in fact, been a long time coming, and many of you who have spoken with me personally know that I certainly don't lack thoughts on our present local, national, or global situation, whatever that might be. I wish for this to be a beginning, for me to stop hoarding my observations and to begin sharing them with the world. For I find that as I share them with individuals, I touch upon subjects that either they haven't considered, or that, out of trepidation for today's current rather restrictive environment, they hesitate to embrace it all. So let's be completely clear without any equivocation whatsoever. We exist at one of the few moments in history in which massive change is upon us, and the rate of change is extremely quick. Usually, in such human revolutions, whether agricultural or industrial, the first generation to experience them suffers quite greatly. We are clearly experiencing all of these changes. We can feel the erosion of certain kinds of security that used to exist for some number of generations, though even that is quite misleading. The American security that we may have had in our minds when we were growing up, it too belonged to a certain time and place, and was the result of very specific moments in history, all coming to, let's call it fruition or ripeness, whatever we might call it. Now, there is an unfortunate stream that is dominant today in those that might consider themselves liberal, which is in fact anti-liberal. It is authoritarian, and this channel is unequivocally anti-woke. So, with that in mind, I should be extremely clear about who I am. I am a gay Jew, born in New York City. I did my undergrad in Montreal. I have a bachelor's degree in history, Arabic, and Italian. I went on to culinary school in France, and then I went and moved to Israel when I was 22. I did a master's in diplomacy at Tel Aviv University, after which I worked in foreign language financial news research and translation, but then spent the bulk of my time living in Israel as a tour guide, explaining the many thousands of years of history that all brought one tremendous event after another in a very small piece of land. So, this project that's a long time coming will touch on everything. There is nothing that will be taboo, especially in a time when so much is taboo. We shall discuss, of course, race relations, the economy, what it means to be a progressive and what the notion of progress is at all. We shall discuss anti-Semitism, the Arab-Israeli conflict, gender identities, the transformation, the origin of left versus right, and whether or not those terms really apply in the way in which they used to. The most important thing I wish to convey is that our current politic is a regressive one. There is tremendous legitimate anger over various forms of oppression that have existed in the past and have formed the world in which we live today. However, I know with certainty that a focus entirely on the wrongs of the past will not create the brighter future we wish to see. So this is not to negate the observations of others that rightly point out that much in the world that has come up till now is unjust and that, as Martin Luther King would say, the long arc of history bends towards justice, so is it not incumbent upon us, if we believe in progress, to also progress to a more just place? That being said, there's also been an attack on the English language. We no longer all use the same words to mean the same thing, and this is a problem. This is a problem because knowing that words have the same meaning is what allows us to communicate at all. I wish very much for a better future, and I believe it is absolutely necessary for us to not be afraid, for there to be no taboos in the public discourse. It is our ability to discuss anything that keeps us from clobbering each other over the heads when we interpret the action of others as somehow offensive or harmful. Words prevent physical violence. The notion that language is violence is also a problem. Language can incite violence, but language is specifically not violence. So, we shall also discuss things like nonviolent communication and postmodernist cultural relativism. Can we peg our morality to anything? Well, yes, we can. The world was not born in a vacuum. We can trace all of the way we see things now to earlier points in history, and learning from them will help us to create a better future. Dwelling on them will keep us stuck in a past that's already gone. So, this show, which I've named Social Critic, will cover first a number of topics that I think are necessary as foundational to this discussion. Later, we shall discuss current events as they arise and how they reflect the various issues that I mention. And eventually, I hope to start a wider discussion in which we begin to see some truly new ideas, rather than rehashing the ideas of the past simply as a way to climb over each other for a new social hierarchy. Social criticism is an extremely important tool in guiding a society. I find it absolutely imperative to convey that I am aware that we belong to a particular moment in history, that this moment in history is one full of opportunities that we can mold, that we come from all of those past events that led to this moment, but we do not live in the past, we belong to now. And likewise, as many hopes and desires as we have for the future, we are not yet in the future, we only have now. So, thank you for listening, and I look forward to hopefully the many discussions that this may inspire.